That's the first reading from my book, which I'll be discussing today, NexGen Human, A Modern Age Path to Fulfillment. And this is a prayer for the NexGen Human. I embrace the adventure that is my life. I rejoice in its challenges. I rejoice in its opportunities. Through all my ups and through all my downs, I am strengthened on my journey. As I deepen my connections, I unfold and discover who I am and deliver my gifts to the world. I embrace the adventure that is my life. This second reading is also from my book, NexGen Human, and it speaks to the critical skill. And I'll be talking about in my homily today, the critical skill. So what is this critical skill? It is the ability to consciously and consistently partner with the power of the universe. It's time for us, both collectively and individually, to develop the skill of joining forces with the ultimate, most valuable, intangible element in our universe, the intelligent energy of the universe itself. This is a skill you can learn and develop to bring the power of this amazing universal intelligence alive in your life. Fundamentally, what this means is to shift our idea and experience of God, universal intelligence, great spirit, source, from an external concept to an internal reality. No longer is God something outside of us whose existence we must take on the word of others and have faith and believe in. Like having someone fall in love for you and then telling you how it is, the old way of relating to God was one step removed. When you don't have the direct experience of God, the relationship must be based on faith and belief. Universal life force is already in you and is always available, but it's up to you to heed the call and maximize your partnership with this force, this intelligence, this energy. So I'm very pleased to be here today. Thank you all in the sanctuary and those online for inviting and welcoming me here to be your guest homilist today. And it's truly an honor and greatly appreciated. And I would like to start in the field of gratitude. And I was here last year, not in this church, but online as a guest homilist. 1 year ago, April 24th, 2022, presenting my book, Truth Bubble. And then not long after that, doing heart math. I am a huge fan of heart math, which has been developed in the Santa Cruz Mountains not far from here. And I'd like to start with a little heart-focused breathing, which I have found extremely powerful for cultivating a field and frequency of gratitude and love. And it's simple. There's 3 steps. It's heart-focused breathing and activating a feeling of gratitude. So we can place our hands on our heart, and we can bow our heads toward our heart, and we can slow down our breathing and deepen our breathing. Just take a nice deep breath in. And then slowly exhale. And we do that again and again, slowing to the pace that's comfortable for you, about 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out. Or count of 5, and then a count of 5 out. Bringing your awareness into your heart. Activating the heart field of intelligence through the breath and through your awareness. As you feel your heart come alive, activate a feeling of appreciation, of love, of gratitude for a person, a place, or a thing in your life. And let that feeling expand throughout your being as you breathe in and out a little more deeply, a little more slowly, a little more consciously. Let that feeling of gratitude radiate into every cell of your being. And then when you are saturated, allow it to radiate out to the people next to you, to the neighbors on either side of your home, to the community, to the world. It's real. This is a real field of powerful energy that affects not only you, but the environments you walk and live in. This practice makes a difference, a profound difference, and I invite all of us to radiate love and gratitude everywhere we go. So letting that gently go and maintaining the state of blessed grace and gratitude. My message through my books is primarily one of love. In fact, that's the bottom line. However, I also speak much to the transformation of fear to love. In my life, there has been much fear, lots of fear, and still fear. And it has been the path of transformation for me to transform my own fear into love. And so, through my books, my writings, my teachings, I encourage people to turn towards their fear and open their heart and connect to their source of safety, their God, their spirit of understanding. And through that connection, what I have found is fear melts away. False evidence appearing real, F-E-A-R. Forgetting everything is all right, F-E-A-R. So I encourage myself and all to remember everything is all right now, right here. And it's up to us to find that place of safety and love and cultivate that for ourselves and others. And so this is my message, and over the next 3 homilies, I'm here today. I'll be here again, May 21st, and then again on June 4th. And what I'll be doing is unpacking my book, NexGen Human. This book, NexGen Human, I wrote and released in 2009, and what I find is that it's just as relevant today, and in fact, perhaps more relevant and important than when I released it in 2009. So I'm pleased to see that if I could claim any wisdom in the book, is still valid, still relevant, and is as important in my life and at this time as it ever was. So today I'm unpacking the first 3 chapters. And those first 3 chapters are, number 1, the critical skill, number 2, transcend and include, and number 3, a good place to start. So, from the back cover, which I think was shared in the introduction to this homily online, I wrote, "We live in a dynamic, ever-changing world. To paraphrase Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, Toto, we ain't in Kansas anymore." In this day and age, we are challenged like no other human before with overwhelming choices, overwhelming information, and an overwhelming focus on fear. In this new world, ironically, what used to be luxuries are now necessities. Living your passions, delivering your gifts to the world, connecting to your heart, accessing deep sources of wisdom, transforming limiting beliefs, and being fully alive, loving your life each and every day. So, what is a next-gen human? A next-gen human is the next generation of human being that is arising on the earth. I'm not talking about any specific generation like Gen X or Y or Z. I mean next generation as in our next big turn in our evolutionary unfolding and destiny. And it's happening now through each and every one of us. Father Sean calls it Homo spiritualis. Barbara Marx Hubbard calls it Homo universalis. Sri Aurobindo calls it the Gnostic being or the superhuman. Friedrich Nietzsche called it the Übermensch. I call it the NexGen Human. Father Sean defines Homo spiritualis as anyone who is awakening from the dream of identification with the incarnational spacesuit, and who can laugh at the illusion that we are separate from Source, from nature, or from each other. Such a one has compassion for all, and a significant part of such compassion is the willingness to confront Homo sociopathicus, and thus short-circuit the zombie slide into becoming hackable, programmable robots called Homo artificialis. So aligned with this definition of our evolutionary opportunity in my book, I outline 11 evolutionary traits of a next-gen human. Each of these is presented in more detail with its own chapter. Today I'm talking about the first three. This homily, like the first three chapters of my book, presents where we're going and will get us started. The first three traits of a next-gen human are, number one, embraces and cultivates a conscious, consistent connection with the intelligent power of the universe. Number two, able to celebrate and integrate the past, transcending it and including it in a forever expanding new vision of life. And number three, proactively cultivates a focus on the good in life while not denying the challenging, difficult aspects, recognizing and not getting hooked by the mind's and society's tendency to focus on and create worries and fears, and practicing gratitude, knowing there is always much to be grateful for. So let's take this first one, and quite frankly, the most important one, embraces and cultivates a conscious, consistent connection with the intelligent power of the universe. We have people alive today saying God is dead, which is nothing new. However, that voice seems to be getting a little louder. This voice says that God is a childish fantasy, a made-up story, a crutch that is needed for the weak and vulnerable flesh bag that is all that a human is. And because that is all that a human is, a physical flesh bag, science and technology are now our path to salvation and liberation. Because we are so weak and so limited, we need to blend with machines to keep progressing, creating Homo artificialis. Is that true for you? And if it isn't, I suspect, like I suspect it isn't, why is that? Where do you get your confidence, your conviction, your knowing that God is not dead, that there are other paths to our salvation, our liberation, and our freedom? Just like we must each create our own personal cosmology, like you're doing on the companions on the journey, we must each find our own unique way into a real relationship with the God of our understanding. What I call the critical skill, I believe now is more critical today than perhaps ever before. The future of evolution on the planet, of the human family itself, may hinge on our willingness to, at this time, turn toward God and say yes to this profound relationship and surrender to the unique path of evolution presented to us by the God of our understanding, by the God of your understanding. Albert Einstein supposedly said there are two ways of looking at the world. One is as if nothing is a miracle, and the other is as if everything is a miracle. I would propose that those among us who say God is dead look at the world as if nothing is a miracle. And those of us who look at it, and not only look at it, but actually experience everything in the world as a miracle, have a very profound relationship with God. For me, existence itself is evidence of God, a universal organizing intelligence behind, through, and guiding all things. The hubris of those who declare God is dead is shocking. That because they have attained some level of knowledge and control in the world, that they now are the ultimate force and controller of the universe? Come on, give me a break. I heard just last night that the leading expert in the gut biome has identified and is aware of maybe 500 strains of bacteria and viruses and somewhat understands their function and role. Out of what she suspects is trillions of viruses and bacteria in the gut biome. In her humility, she stated the cutting edge of her science understands far less than 1% of what is actually going on in the gut biome. And this is only in our own gut, right here. It's not a big stretch to see that this level of complexity and our lack of understanding is likely mirrored in pretty much every system, from the infinitely small to the infinitely large. Our food is digested, our heart is beating, our lungs are breathing, the earth is spinning, the sun is shining, the grass is growing. For me, this is the most obvious proof of the existence of God. For me, God is the organizing intelligence behind it all. And for someone to say that God is dead, frankly, makes me laugh. Now, is the patriarchal God with a beard sitting on the throne up in the sky dead? For many, yes. We can say that understanding of God is dead. And in its place, there is a new God arising in our understanding. That God is this universal intelligence, a cosmic consciousness underlying and guiding all that exists. Connecting to and aligning with this energy, this intelligence, this awareness, this field is the opportunity of the NexGen Human. Basically, my whole book is about doing that. That is the bottom line. And until you are connected to and living from this universal life force intelligence, you're operating at a surface level. You're moving deck chairs around on the Titanic. People who are declaring God is dead are ultimately just moving deck chairs around on the Titanic, and their ship is going down. But for those of us walking the path of a NexGen Human, our ship sails on, for we are connected to the source of the ship, the ocean, the earth, the stars, ourselves, and literally everything that exists in the universe. We are at home with Source, and we are living in love. We have everything we need, and we are free. A human operating at this level is a divine creative force on the planet and cannot be controlled by anyone or anything that would desire to do so. This is the critical skill, and I believe it is more critical today than ever before. Let's invite the presence of God into our experience right now. We can take a breath. God lives in the breath. Just breathe. Gently close your eyes if you'd like and turn within, where the God of your understanding lives and breathes and communicates to you, with you, as you. And feel your heart beating and be grateful. And feel your lungs breathing and be grateful. And feel your food digesting and be grateful. Notice your thoughts thinking and be grateful. Notice your feelings feeling and be grateful. Notice the grass growing, the earth spinning, the sun shining, and be grateful. And notice through all of this is God. Beating, breathing, digesting, thinking, feeling, growing, spinning, shining. God is not a noun. God is a verb, living you and the entire cosmos right now. Be grateful. Okay. Moving on, chapter 2, Transcend and Include. So if this is so important and so powerful, why doesn't everybody do it? What gets in the way? Well, there's many reasons. Let's start with fear. One of my favorite quotes is by Mark Twain, who said, "I've suffered a great many catastrophes, most of which never happened." These days, and quite frankly for decades, it seems everything is out to get us. My dad, who is now 90 years old, a nuclear chemist who retired from the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory after almost 40 years of service, remembers back in the 70s when there was a scientific consensus that the great global freeze was coming, that there was a new ice age in our near future that was going to be extremely detrimental to life on Earth. What happened to that? Because of how our brains are wired to first ensure our survival, predictions of gloom and doom capture our attention and can make lots and lots of money. Remember when the ozone was dissolving and was going to be catastrophic for us? Is anybody worried about that anymore? Did the removal of chlorofluorocarbons from Aquanet hairspray aerosol cans fix that? Maybe. What about acid rain? That was a big one for a while. Another terrible effects. It would decimate our crops and we'd starve to death. Is anybody worried about that now? No. Did catalytic converters in our cars fix that? Maybe. After 9/11, how many of you were worried about terrorist attacks coming to a place near you? I was. Hey, get on, Bart, go through the Transbay terminal. People were worried that was going to blow up. We had threat level advisories whenever we traveled. How many of you are worried about that now? Did the millions and millions of dollars funneled into Homeland Security fix that? Maybe. More recently has been global warming, which is now climate change. My dad sent me a text today, and he said when he retired from the lab in 1995, the prediction was there'd be 0 snowpack in the Sierras by now. This year, if you know, we have the largest snowpack in years. So they were convinced in 1995, no snowpack in the Sierras. I saw Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth in 2006, and I bought it hook, line, and sinker. However, 17 years now out from his predictions, most of which had a 10-year time frame, we're still here. Interesting. And our most recent catastrophe is COVID, again, generating billions of dollars for the peddlers of the fear. Death and suffering has been experienced, however, much of it from the response to the threat rather than the threat itself. And humanity is still here. How about monkeypox? There was an effort to stir that into a firestorm of fear. Are any of you afraid of that? I don't want to minimize the dangers of living on Earth. As Father Sean says, it's one of the most challenging rides in the universe. And a big part of that is the very real dangers that do exist in this physical realm that we live in. However, if all we do is live our lives from one fear to the next, fending and defending ourselves into smaller and smaller corners every day and every moment, I propose that is no life at all. And I am here to offer another option. And that option is the NexGen Human, who is connected to the infinite, loving, guiding intelligence of the entire cosmos, grounding their sanity and capacity to think in this ultimate basis of all, empowering their ability to choose more wisely their responses, if any, to threats perceived in their environment. Knee-jerk, fear-based reactions are appropriate for immediate threats. However, unless you cannot breathe or are profusely bleeding, you do not have an emergency, and there's enough time to listen to your deeper, higher guidance and choose most wisely. We make the spiritual move by first transcending, seeing from a higher, more connected perspective. And then from there, we can include perceived threats and choose more wisely our own, and this is the message of Truth Bubble, we each live in our own reality. We each are the center of our own universe, and we must honor our own truth and honor the truth of others. and choose most wisely for ourselves our unique path forward. This is the practice of a NexGen Human that I call Transcend and Include. So, to initiate your practice in this arena, and I'm a big fan of practice. I'm a senior teacher of integral transformative practice, which is a long-term path to the realization of our human potential. The quick fix doesn't work, as George Leonard and Michael Murphy pointed out with their book, The Life We Are Giving. Our society loves the quick fix, loves the pills, loves the cut it out and you'll be healthy path. The path of long-term practice has been proven. And so I invite you into practice. And coming to church here on Sunday is a practice. All of you listening to me now are in practice. Congratulations. It's very powerful. To initiate your practice in this arena of transcending and including, take a moment now to reflect on how much of your time and energy you invest in fear-based content and problems. Most of our standard cultural conversations via the internet, TV, radio, movies, newspapers are peddling fear-based content. Notice if there might be an opportunity for you to shift your focus, maybe just even a little bit, to more uplifting sources of energy. This is not about denying or ignoring challenging aspects in our world. It's about transcending them and including them in a larger context of love and freedom. Okay, now shifting gears to chapter 3. A good place to start. As we've seen, because the brain is hardwired for survival and is always on the lookout for threats, our default mode of being in the world is on alert. Related to this perception of threats is a tendency to see what is wrong with the world. That, if they were fixed, we would be a lot more safe and a lot more happy. It's ironic because in this effort to become more safe and happy, we become more miserable. Why is that? Well, because all we see in the world is threats and problems. The promise or carrot the mind holds out is that happiness and fulfillment will be yours once all these problems are fixed. However, what you actually get is more and more problems. This is similar to Father Sean's story of the African elder who asked him as a young man, "Why are you Westerners always trying to solve problems?" Which stumped Father Sean, who in his own wisdom asked the elder what he meant by that. The elder then reported that if all you do is solve problems, the universe will just keep giving you more problems to solve. As a NexGen Human, the antidote to this habitual pattern of the brain is to train it to see what's good in the world, to stop focusing on problems and start looking for what's good and working in the world. And through this practice, when you start looking for what's good and what's working in the world, the universe starts giving you more of what is good and what is working. And that is what I mean by a good place to start. So I want to show you the power of your mind by doing a little experiment. If you've done this before, that's fine. Just use it as a moment to reinforce the power of your mind and the importance of this practice. Wherever you are right now, I want you to look around and count the number of white things you can see. Just take a moment now and look around in your space for white things, things that are the color white, and just count them. When you see something white, count it. Just looking around, getting your inventory of white things. Okay, great. Got your count? Now, close your eyes and tell me how many things around you are green. Oh, you might remember some things that are green in the room, but more than likely you're much more present to the things that are white. Opening your eyes now. This demonstrates that we experience far more greatly the things we focus on and look for in our environment, and we tend not to see those things that we are not looking for and focusing on. This is true for all things in our world. So we can ask ourselves, what am I looking for? In conclusion, the critical skill is connecting to source. And when you're connected to source, you have a capacity to transcend fear-based realities and problems, moving beyond knee-jerk, fear-based habitual patterns into a more holistic, informed, and guided place. From there, our best options, choices, and actions become available. And we can learn to focus on the good. Again, when connected to source, this gets a whole lot easier. Even the hard, tough, and scary things in the world can be seen as good when you're really grounded in God. For me, the great challenges and threats of our time are catalysts for our evolution. They are increasing the urgency and importance of our evolution into Homo spiritualis and becoming a next-gen human. This is what I came here for, and by being here, I think this is what you came here for too. I am grateful, I am thankful, and inspired to have companions on this journey like you. Thank you. And now I will open it up for questions. If there are any, and I may have answers, but I will tell you, as a teacher and a leader in the field of consciousness, my first move is to ask you what your answer is, because you have the answer that is right for you. I will offer suggestions, possibilities, but recognize they're from my own truth bubble. They're my truth, not yours. You can try them on, you can have them, but know that your truth is the one that really matters. So I will say that as I open up for Q&A. Yeah, I see Andrea with her hand up.
Yes, thank you, Roger. I always find it fascinating when I hear different speakers from different places arrive to the same conclusion. It's just it's so affirming, right? So I'm just curious, I have, as a healer and someone who's studied a lot of different things, I've studied the Course in Miracles, which is essentially all about choosing the path of love and not choosing fear and realizing that fear is an illusion. I'm just curious, because your work is so similar to my work, if you've ever studied the Course in Miracles or if you've just arrived at this through a different route.
Great question. Yes, I studied for a year the workbook and did some readings. So I journeyed the path of A Course in Miracles because it's so powerful and it has so much impact in the lives of those who are living it. And so I participated in a weekly group that met to do the workbook. And I found incredible wisdom in A Course in Miracles, and was really delighted to move through the entire workbook. And those of you that aren't familiar with that, there's a workbook where you engage questions on a regular basis throughout the course of a year. You can start it at any time. It's just 365 possibilities of creating your truth bubble, as I would say. So yeah, it's super powerful, and it's just a beautiful piece on my journey, but it's not how I arrived here, but it has complemented and affirmed that which I am standing for in the world.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, for me, I meditated the Circle of Atonement calendar, which is also available to everybody. There are 365 meditations for every day of the year, starting on January 1st. It was really life-changing for me. So thank you.
Just to add a little more to that too, the Course in Miracles I found to be one of the most perhaps confrontational teachings in terms of its stand for what's possible. And it does stand for you are creating your reality absolutely every single second and moment, and your opportunity is to wake up and realize that. And yet, of course, where it rubs is where I feel like I don't have control over my reality, and it's freaking obvious that I don't. I am a victim in areas of my life. And in my book, Truth Bubble, I talk about these places. I say, look, gravity. I feel like I'm a victim of gravity. You can reframe it as it's a blessing. I also say gravity is Mother Earth's hug of us, our loving embrace, and keeping us on the surface of her so we don't fly off into space. So I'm not a victim, but nonetheless, I feel I don't have capacity to levitate. Okay? Yet, we do know there are people in the world that apparently have levitated. And some have witnessed this, some have done it. So that starts to challenge my reality that gravity is something that we just must succumb to and is something that I have no power over. So for me, the way that I've begun to frame this is that there's a continuum of my unique capacity to create my reality. And everybody is in a different place in their own lives on that continuum. You must determine for yourself where you are on that continuum and navigate that wisely. We're all different. We all have different minds, bodies, hearts, souls, histories, past lives, future lives, etc. So we got to feel into that for ourselves and honor the place where everyone is, because we're each in a different place. So, where are you on this path of creating your own reality and your experience in life? And what areas are you looking at? Some people are masters in the arena of sports. Some people are masters in the arena of love and relationships. Some people are masters in the arena of money. And some people have challenges in the arena of money. In fact, that's another space, for our consciousness. So where are you on the continuum in the many areas of your life in owning your capacity to create your experience in body, mind, heart, and soul, both inner and outer? That's the question. And it goes back to the serenity prayer, right? The serenity prayer, something like, God, grant me the power to change what I can and accept what I cannot change, and the power to know the difference. So perhaps there are areas in our lives that we can't change, just maybe, and maybe that's by divine design. Maybe we're not supposed to change those. But let's question, let's challenge, especially in those areas where we really want change, and go for it. So thanks for the question, Andrea. I love A Course in Miracles, and I encourage everyone to do the workbook. It will challenge you.
I remember some time ago, I'm kind of an amateur astrologer, but I remember a very wise astrologer once saying that the sign Cancer, and that's my rising sign, indulges in awful possibilities. And my experience with that is that you indulge in those awful possibilities until you have this flip. Carl Jung called it the enantiodromia. It's like you face your fears, you get to the top of it, the fears or the bottom, and then somehow your system feels this is wrong, and you flip to another approach. And it's that flip in opposites that I'm really working with right now. And I went to bed last night with lots of not so much fear as sadness and a sense of what do I do next with my life. I'm getting old. I mean, I've been old for some time actually, and it's like I've been working on these things. And then I realized this morning that a while back I gave my soul and my spirit guide the task of, okay, what am I afraid of? What's held my life back? Bring it on. And that focus seems to be opening the door to confronting these fears, confronting the sadness, for confronting all the things I don't like about my life. And this morning I woke up with a sense of energy and, okay, we cleaned the slate. Now let's start again. So I'd like your comment on that.
Wow, congratulations. My comment is, way to go, Marty. That's awesome. I love it. I mean, you're just turning towards these things in your life that scare you, that you've been afraid of, and saying, bring it on. What is it? And experiencing some revelation, experiencing some freedom, experiencing some breakthroughs. That's great work. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I know it's not the end of it. I'm going to be doing this many times until I clear out a whole bunch of stuff. But it's like I'm just realizing, don't be afraid of fear.
Absolutely. Yep. And You know, for my own life, having done this work, I get really frustrated when more fears keep coming. It seems there's an endless supply to keep me on my path of practice and on my toes.
Yes.
And I've had to learn to accept that, to surrender to that. And as a matter of fact, on the planet today, some of the fears are getting to global level and have been very challenging for me, confrontational for me. And I've been working to transform those to opportunities, opportunities for evolution, opportunities for my own spiritual realization and for us as a humanity. You know, I love the story of the butterfly and it as a transformational metaphor. And many of you have heard this, but I think it's really relevant to keep present in our mind at this time, which is as the butterfly is emerging from the cocoon, which is a struggle for it, it struggles to get out. However, if you try to reduce that struggle by cutting the cocoon back so it can come out more easily, it dies because it can't get the fluids that the pressure around the cocoon pushes into its wings. It needs that constriction to push the fluids into the wings so that it can then fly. So for me, the reframe on any challenge in one's life is, this is supporting me to fly. I embrace this. And in that, it's a beautiful reframe. It's a different truth bubble. And now I'm empowered and I'm using the challenges of my life for my own personal growth and evolution. So that's what I see you doing, Marty, is using the fears, the challenges, the things we wish would go away to support our own growth and transformation. And therein lies the work. That's what I think we're here for.
Yeah, and I keep reminding myself whenever I get too deep into something, this earth is a school. And for some reason that opens it up for me. And I can say, okay, what's today's lesson? I take it on.
Nice. Yeah, the frame of Earth as a school works for me as well. And as much as I try to say, no, I just want it to be fun and relaxing and pleasurable and joyful and easy, it doesn't work. So
Yeah.
I've tried to affirm myself into that. And what I have found is that by affirming the lessons, affirming the challenges, affirming the growth that is wanting to happen, I have a lot more love and joy. So it's a both and for me now. And I'm aligned with you, Marty, 100%. Thank you for your question.
Roger, great talk. Thank you for coming today and sharing the message today. My question is, what was your inspiration for NexGen and Truth Bubble? That very first day where you decided, hey, I got to do something about this. Could you go into that a little bit? What your inspiration was?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Kevin. I appreciate it. You know, and it's one of those things, which is the message in both of my books, that life is a journey. It unfolds over time. And so I can't point to any one particular moment where the inspiration for NexGen Human came through. It goes all the way back to my childhood and the experiences I was having in religious contexts and not finding what I was looking for and wondering where in the world was the spiritual message that I was seeking, because in my circles it was all religious. So that was part of it, is the inspiration through my life, seeking something that I couldn't find and then wanting to bring it into the world. And of course, after bringing it into the world, or even before that, I found many places where there were beautiful spiritual messages. You know, it's kind of like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I just wasn't ready. But in terms of producing the book, what I found, Kevin, was that as I'm a life coach, I'm a leadership coach. I've been doing that for 20 years. And early on, what I found was people didn't understand me. I was trying to communicate this message of the NexGen Human, this possibility of spiritual growth and transformation, and it wasn't landing. And I thought, okay, I'm going to put it into a book. And then before I work with anybody, I'm going to require they read this book. Mm-hmm. And after they read the book, then we'll be on the same page. And as a matter of fact, that actually worked. So people read the book, I'm like, hey, if you're resonating in this frequency after reading this book, we'll be on the same page and I look forward to working with you. But if you're unwilling to read the book, you're probably not somebody I want to work with. Or if you read part of the book and it doesn't work for you, then we found out early on that we're not for each other. So that was also part of the inspiration, was just to help people find me and for me to find my people. And a book is good at that.
Thank you, Roger. Very good. Question. Any guidance on separating fears that are of a veneer nature to the fears that would be seed corn, deeper and more prominent and more worthy of exploration?
John asked for any insight or guidance or suggestions around sorting depth of fears. So some fears are more at the veneer level, perhaps not worthy of real engagement, and there's not a lot of, let's say, value there, versus deeper fears, more rooted in one's being, where if one was to work with those, a significant transformation may be available and possible. Is that fair?
Well recapped. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. The first thing I want to say is that these fears, for me and clients that I work with, do exist at different levels. So I want to acknowledge your frame, which is that there are surface level fears, like, oh, I won't get a parking spot because it's just going to be so busy there, right? And that's a fear. To, I'm going to die. Death is real on this planet, and that's coming. So I would say that's kind of just to kind of put some bumpers on the fears. There's death and dying and the dissolution of your physical self. And there's, I won't get a parking lot in San Francisco at noon on a Tuesday. And you're right. Let me say this, there's value in working with any fear because there's transformation available. And those of us that have delightful parking genies know that. Yes, it's awesome. You can begin demonstrating to yourself in a safe area your power to transform and produce results that are delightful by taking something simple first and warming up before jumping into the deeper existential fears of existence. And there's profound value in delving into life, into things like death. So I guess my suggestion to you or to anyone, this works for me in coaching clients, is I start with write them all down, all the fears. Just let them fly out onto a piece of paper. And I always say, don't not write something down, because if it's in you, it's in you. If it occurred as a thought, it's in you. Put it on the piece of paper. Like, oh, I don't want to say that one because it might give it energy, or it's not really true for me. Put it on the paper and look at it. Because if it's not true for you, when you really begin to work with it, you'll see that it's not. And it's okay, you can dismiss it. But write everything down, and then you might actually rank them on a scale from 1 to 10. This fear here, minor, that's a 2. Some are going to be in the middle, like, oh, my mother-in-law. Can I really create a loving relationship? That's a 5. Right? Or death. And for many, that's a 10. It's like, wow, can I really embrace this temporal state of existence? And when one does, there's powerful transformation available. So you got to kind of sort it out for yourself and warm up to it. Start with something small, I would say, and get kind of the mechanism, because in a sense, the mechanism is the same, where you identify the fear, you turn toward it and say, what do you have to teach me? What am I learning here? What am I really afraid of? And keep peeling back those layers until basically the fear kind of melts away. It'll melt away. And then you're left with possibilities. So I hope that helps. Does that help a little bit?
Very much so.
It's a super good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.